Welcome to Histology. In 1325 AD, the Aztec people settled on an island in Lake Texcoco and founded their capital city, Tenochtitlan. According to legend, they were guided by a vision of an eagle holding a snake on a cactus, a sign from their patron god Huitzilopochtli that this should be their new home. This myth was so important that it's pictured on Mexico's coat of arms to this day. It shows how deeply Aztec religion influenced their decisions and way of life. The Aztecs worshipped hundreds of gods, scholars say more than 200, who ruled over every aspect of the world. There were gods for the sun and war, for rain and agriculture, and for death and the underworld. The Aztecs believed they had to offer prayers, offerings, and often human sacrifices to these gods to keep the universe in balance. Below, we explore some of the most important Aztec gods and goddesses and the stories told about them. Huitzilopochtli, hummingbird of the south. Huitzilopochtli was the patron god of the Aztecs and one of their most powerful deities. His name means hummingbird of the south, and he was the god of the sun and war. The Aztecs believed Huitzilopochtli led them on their long migration to find a new home. It was he who sent the sign of the eagle and snake, guiding them to build Tenochtitlan on that island. As the sun god, Huitzilopochtli brought warmth and light to the world each day, and as the god of war, he gave the Aztecs victory in battle. Huitzilopochtli's temple stood atop the Templo Mayor pyramid in the Aztec capital, painted blood red and decorated with skulls. The Aztecs felt they needed to feed Huitzilopochtli with human blood to keep the sun moving across the sky. Each day they said he fought against darkness, a battle he could only win with the nourishment of sacrificial blood. In Aztec mythology, Huitzilopochtli was locked in an eternal struggle with his sister, Coyolxauhqui, the moon goddess. Long ago, when Huitzilopochtli was born, he had to fight his sister and his 400 brothers, who were the stars, on top of a sacred mountain. He defeated Coyolxauhqui, cutting off her head and throwing it into the sky to become the moon. This myth explained why the sun, Huitzilopochtli, and the moon seem to chase each other in the sky. They are siblings eternally at war. Thanks to Huitzilopochtli's strength and the sacrifices offered to him, the sun rises every morning, and the Aztecs believe their world remains alive. Tezcatlipoca, the smoking mirror. Tezcatlipoca was another one of the most important Aztec gods, often seen as a rival to Huitzilopochtli. His name means smoking mirror, referring to the obsidian mirror he carried that gave off smoke. Tezcatlipoca was the god of the night sky, destiny, and sorcery. He was associated with darkness, change, and conflict. In contrast to Huitzilopochtli, who represented the sun, Tezcatlipoca ruled the night and the unknown. His animal counterpart, Nahual, was the jaguar, a creature of the night. Aztec stories say that Tezcatlipoca and Quetzalcoatl, who was his brother, worked together to create the world. Yet, Tezcatlipoca is often portrayed as a trickster and a destroyer in mythology. He could bring fortune or disaster. In one myth cycle, Tezcatlipoca and Quetzalcoatl took turns as rulers of successive worlds, each time ending in catastrophe. Tezcatlipoca is sometimes described as a balance to Quetzalcoatl, representing the chaotic and darker side of the universe. He was greatly feared but also respected. Aztec kings paid homage to Tezcatlipoca, and during the annual festival of Toxcatl, the Aztecs honored him with ceremonies and a sacrificial victim who impersonated the god. Tezcatlipoca's ever-watchful, all-seeing presence in his smoking mirror reminded people that the gods were always observing human deeds, and that fate could change in an instant by his will. Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent. Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, was one of the most beloved Aztec gods. He was the god of wind, air, and learning, and he had a very different character from his brother Tezcatlipoca. Quetzalcoatl's name comes from the Nahuatl words for quetzal, a colorful tropical bird, and coatl, serpent, literally feathered snake. He was usually depicted as a flying serpent covered in brilliant green feathers. As a god, Quetzalcoatl was seen as kind and wise. He was the patron of science, art, and knowledge. Aztecs said Quetzalcoatl invented important things like the calendar and writing, and even discovered maize, corn, for humans to eat. Many Aztec myths credit Quetzalcoatl with the creation of humanity. In one famous story, Quetzalcoatl journeys to Mictlan, the land of the dead, with his loyal companion to retrieve the bones of the ancient humans who lived in previous eras of the world. Quetzalcoatl manages to collect these sacred bones and, by mixing them with his own blood, he brings them back to life, creating the first people of our current world. Because of this, Quetzalcoatl was honored as the giver of life and the protector of humanity. Unlike some other gods, Quetzalcoatl was said to dislike human sacrifice and preferred offerings like flowers, birds, and butterflies. He was also associated with the planet Venus, the morning star, which the Aztecs saw as a symbol of his dual nature, appearing in the morning and evening sky. Quetzalcoatl's gentle guidance and the rich gifts of knowledge he provided made him one of the most cherished gods in the Aztec pantheon. Tlaloc, he who makes things sprout. Tlaloc was the Aztec rain god, responsible for bringing life-giving water to the earth. His name can be translated as he who makes things sprout, reflecting his power over agriculture and crop growth. Tlaloc was depicted with large, round goggle eyes and long fangs, often wearing a headdress of rain clouds. The Aztecs both loved and feared Tlaloc. On one hand, he was a benevolent god who sent the rains to make fields green and ensure a good harvest. On the other hand, if angered, he could unleash terrible storms, droughts, or hail that could destroy crops and cause famine. Thus, Tlaloc had a dual nature, kind and nourishing, but also fierce and unpredictable. Tlaloc's main temple shared the top of the Templo Mayor pyramid with Huitzilopochtli's shrine, showing how important he was in the Aztec capital. The Aztecs made many offerings to Tlaloc to keep him happy. They offered corn, cacao, and sacrifices. In some rituals, they even sacrificed children, believing that the tears of the young would bring the rain. Aztecs believed that those who died from drowning, lightning, or certain diseases went to Tlalocan, Tlaloc's paradise. Tlalocan was imagined as a lush green garden in the afterlife with eternal springtime, overseen by the rain god. People who passed on to Tlalocan were thought to enjoy never-ending water and plenty, free from the pain of drought. In every ceremony and prayer for rain, the Aztecs remembered that Tlaloc's gifts were vital. Without his water, no life could survive. But with a storm of his wrath, life could also be swept away. Coatlicue, the serpent skirt. Coatlicue was the Earth Mother goddess in Aztec mythology, known as the serpent skirt because of the way she was depicted. Statues of Coatlicue show her wearing a skirt made of live snakes and a necklace of human hearts, hands, and skulls. She has a gaping snake mouth or sometimes two serpent heads facing each other as her face. Coatlicue was revered as the mother of the gods and mortals. It was said that she gave birth to the stars, the moon, and to Huitzilopochtli, the sun god. She embodied the earth itself, both nurturing and terrifying. As the earth mother, she brought forth life, crops, and children, yet the earth also consumes the dead, which is why Coatlicue's image was both maternal and fearsome. According to Aztec myth, Coatlicue was once a priestess living on the sacred mountain Cotepec, Snake Mountain. One day, while Coatlicue was sweeping the temple, a ball of beautiful feathers fell from the sky and landed before her. When she picked up the feather ball and tucked it into her waistband, she miraculously became pregnant. This divine pregnancy made Coatlicue very happy, but it enraged her other children. Her eldest daughter was Coyolxauhqui, the moon goddess, and Coatlicue also had 400 sons, the stars of the southern sky. Coyolxauhqui and her star brothers felt their mother had dishonored them by becoming pregnant in this mysterious way, so they plotted to kill Coatlicue. They armed themselves and stormed up Cotepec to attack their mother. At the very moment they approached, Coatlicue gave birth to Huitzilopochtli. Huitzilopochtli emerged fully grown and armed with a blazing weapon, the fire serpent. He immediately defended his mother by attacking his siblings. He struck down the 400 stars and cut off Coyolxauhqui's head. He hurled Coyolxauhqui's head into the sky, where it became the moon, so that she would forever be dismembered and humbled in the night. The rest of her body tumbled down the mountainside, coming to rest in pieces. Through Huitzilopochtli's ferocity, Coatlicue was saved. This dramatic story of Coatlicue and the birth of Huitzilopochtli symbolizes the cycle of day overcoming night, the sun defeating the moon and stars, and also reflects the Aztecs' belief in sacrifice and rebirth. Coatlicue herself remained a deeply respected goddess, representing the earth that gives life and takes life away. The Aztecs honored her as a mother of all, even as they feared her gruesome side. Totec, our Lord the Flayed One. Totec, our Lord the Flayed One, was a god of agricultural fertility, seasons, and renewal. He was one of the major Aztec gods associated with the cycle of life and death in nature. Totec's appearance was striking and unsettling. He was often depicted as a figure wearing the flayed, skinned hide of a human victim. This grisly costume symbolized old skin or old life being shed away so that new life could emerge. Much like a snake sheds its skin, or a corn seed loses its husk to sprout. In Aztec belief, Totec sacrificed his own skin to feed humanity, a myth explaining why corn seeds lose their outer layer before growing. Because of this act, he was associated with springtime and new crops, as well as with gold, a metal whose shine was compared to new skin. The worship of Totec involved one of the most dramatic rituals in the Aztec calendar. During the annual spring festival of Tlacaxipehualistli, which means flaying of men, the Aztecs would sacrifice war captives in his honor. In these ceremonies, a captive warrior might be tied to a stone and given mock weapons to duel Aztec soldiers, a fight he was meant to lose. After the ritual combat, the captive was killed and flayed, his skin removed. Priests or chosen individuals would then wear the skin of the sacrifice for 20 days, walking through the community symbolizing Totec himself. The sight was gruesome, but it had a deep meaning. The wearer of the skin represented the god bringing new life. When the worn skin finally grew dry and was cast off, it was like a plant shedding its old husk so the fresh green could appear. Through these rites, the Aztecs hoped to please Totec so that he would make the fields fertile and ensure a good harvest. Totec's cult reminds us of the harsh reality of Aztec religious practice, where life had to be given up in order for new life to thrive. Mictlantecutli and Mictecacihuatl, Lord and Lady of the Underworld. Mictlantecutli and his wife Mictecacihuatl were the god and goddess who ruled Mictlan, the Aztec underworld. The name Mictlantecutli means Lord of Mictlan, and Mictecacihuatl means Lady of Mictlan. These two deities governed the realm of the dead, deep beneath the earth. Mictlantecutli was usually shown as a fearsome figure with a skull face or skeletal body, sometimes with his hair made of twisted paper and eyes staring out of empty sockets. Mictecacihuatl, his queen, was likewise depicted as a skeleton or with a defleshed face. They presided over the dead who had passed away from ordinary causes, unlike warriors or women who died in childbirth, who went to other heavenly realms. Most people who died of illness or old age had to travel to Mictlan. The journey to Mictlan was long and difficult. Aztecs believed a soul had to travel 4 years through the 9 gloomy layers of the underworld to reach the final resting place. Along the way were obstacles like deserts, mountains that crashed together, and a great river that could only be crossed with the help of a red dog. This is why the dead were sometimes buried with a dog to guide them. At last, the soul would arrive at the 9th level, where Mictlantecutli and Mictecacihuatl resided in darkness. Here, the souls of the departed would find rest or simply vanish, according to some stories. The Aztecs did not so much worship Mictlantecutli and Mictecacihuatl with joy, but they offered gifts and sacrifices to them out of respect and to ensure safe passage for the dead. Archaeologists have found skeleton imagery in Aztec temples, and even a large statue of Mictlantecutli, showing that the underworld lord was an important figure in Aztec spirituality. During festivals for the dead, which are ancestors to today's Day of the Dead traditions, the Aztecs likely honored Mictecacihuatl, the Lady of the Underworld, as the guardian of their departed loved ones. Mictlantecutli and Mictecacihuatl represented the inevitable fate of death that awaited everyone. By acknowledging these deities, the Aztecs faced death with ritual and understanding, hoping that when their time came, the Lord and Lady of Mictlan would receive them and protect their souls on that final journey. Tonatiuh, the turquoise lord. Tonatiuh was the Aztec sun god of the current era, often depicted as a fierce sun disk with a face. He was sometimes called the turquoise lord, suggesting a shining blue-green brilliance of the daytime sky. In Aztec cosmology, Tonatiuh is the 5th sun, the sun that rules the present world, after 4 previous suns were destroyed in earlier ages. Every day, Tonatiuh drives his blazing chariot across the sky, bringing daylight to the world. But Tonatiuh is not all-powerful on his own. Aztec mythology says that when this sun first emerged, it was not moving. The gods had to sacrifice themselves to give Tonatiuh the strength to move across the sky. Because of this, Tonatiuh demands human sacrifice as repayment to keep the sun going. The Aztecs believed that the hearts and blood of sacrificial victims were literally the fuel or nourishment the sun needed to battle the darkness each day. If the sun grew weak, the world would fall into eternal night and be destroyed. As the patron of warriors, Tonatiuh was closely connected to the Aztec emphasis on warfare for captives. It was the duty of Aztec warriors to capture enemies alive so they could be offered to Tonatiuh in ritual ceremonies. The most valuable sacrifice was the brave warrior's heart, torn out atop the pyramid and lifted toward the sun. In return for these offerings, Tonatiuh carried the sun across the sky and ensured that each new dawn would come. He was depicted in the famous Aztec sunstone, or calendar stone, at the center, with a flint knife tongue and a determined face, demanding blood. Tonatiuh's position in the center of the sunstone and in Aztec belief shows how critical the sun was to the Aztec world. Life itself depended on Tonatiuh's favor. Every morning the people could rejoice in Tonatiuh's light, knowing their prayers and sacrifices helped keep the great cosmic cycle turning under the warm sun. Chalchutlicu, she who wears a green skirt. Chalchutlicu was the goddess of water, rivers, lakes, and streams. Her name means she who wears a green skirt, describing the green-blue flowing dress in which she was often shown. Chalchutlicu was the wife, and sometimes sister, of the rain god Tlaloc, and she shared his domain over water, but her realm was the waters on the earth's surface. The Aztecs saw Chalchutlicu's presence in the sparkling lakes and rivers of their land. She was a kind goddess in many ways. As the deity of water, she made crops grow and provided fish for people to eat. She was also considered the patroness of childbirth, because new life comes forth amid the waters of the womb, and midwives would pray to Chalchutlicu to protect babies being born. Statues and codex images depict Chalchutlicu with long flowing blue-green skirts, and sometimes with serpents by her sides, symbolizing the flowing currents of water. In Aztec mythology, Chalchutlicu played an important role in the story of the Great Flood. The Aztecs believed that the world had passed through different eras, each one ruled by a different sun. Chalchutlicu ruled as the sun during the fourth sun, the fourth era of the world. In that time, according to the myths, Chalchutlicu unleashed a massive flood that covered the earth and brought that era to an end. However, she showed mercy to the people. She transformed humans into fish so that they could survive in the water. In this way, even as she caused destruction, she also allowed life to continue in another form. The Aztecs honored Chalchutlicu with festivals where they offered her flowers and precious stones, and performed rituals by the water's edge. Because water could be gentle or deadly, Chalchutlicu too was seen as both loving and potentially wrathful. Her celebrations included dances and prayers for bountiful rains and safe childbirth, but they could also include serious offerings, even human sacrifices, to appease the powerful waters. In art and story, Chalchutlicu stands as a symbol of water's dual nature. It gives life and can take it away. For the Aztecs, she was a goddess to approach with gratitude and respect, ensuring that the rivers would keep flowing and that life-giving water would always be there when they needed it. These figures, gods of sun and war, of rain and water, of earth and death, of knowledge and renewal, together formed the grand tapestry of Aztec mythology. Through their stories and the rituals devoted to them, the Aztecs tried to understand the world around them. The gods could be fierce or kind, but all of them demanded reverence. By honoring these deities, the Aztecs maintained the balance of the cosmos, believing that their very survival depended on keeping the gods fed, pleased, and strong. The legacy of these Aztecs